Siguiente exposición es el doctor Andreas Stamatis. Vamos a ver si ya lo tenemos aquí. El doctor Andreas Stamatis es profesor asociado de Deporte y Bienestar, coordinador del programa de grado y director del laboratorio de la Universidad Estatal de Nueva York en Plattsburgh, en Estados Unidos. Obtuvo su doctorado en Psicología Educativa y su maestría en Pedagogía Deportiva en la Universidad de Baylor, en Texas, Estados Unidos. También posee una maestría en Administración de la Tecnología de la Universidad de la Ciudad de Seattle y una maestría ejecutiva en Administración de Empresas de la Universidad de Indianápolis. Además, tiene un grado en Economía de la Universidad de Piraeus, en Grecia, de donde es originario. Sus temas de investigación incluyen la fortaleza mental, el entrenamiento de la fuerza muscular, conductas de dirección de los entrenadores, la mujer en el deporte y otros. En todos estos temas ha publicado en múltiples revistas de reconocido prestigio internacional y además el doctor Stamatis posee certificaciones como fisiólogo del ejercicio del American College of Sports Medicine, también certificaciones del entrenamiento de la fuerza de la National Strength and Conditioning Association y de otras organizaciones internacionales. El día de hoy, el doctor Andreas Stamatis nos estará impartiendo la conferencia Mental Toughness in Sport, Progress and Prospects. Entonces esta conferencia es en el idioma inglés y es acerca de la fortaleza mental en el deporte. Good morning, Andreas. The stage is yours.
Good morning, Jose. Good morning, everybody. Let me make sure that this is working.
Yes, you're going to see a small sign where you can hide a little tab at the bottom of the screen, so it won't distract people.
I don't know what you can see right now.
Not yet. That's the first slide. Yes. Very good. Mientras el doctor Stamatis termina de arreglar su presentación, nada más le recuerdo que la lista de la asistencia se estará pasando al final de cada conferencia para que puedan anotar su número de identificación, el ID que se les envió por correo electrónico, para que después puedan tener su constancia. Are you ready, Andreas?
Yeah, I think if I do it presenter's view, then it doesn't show, but this way I think it's okay. Just let me know if you can see.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Is this working?
Okay. You can give it a try again, just in case.
I tried to maximize it, but it doesn't work, I think. But you can see it now, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's start. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Honestly, it's an honor to talk to you about my research, my passion, and I'm blessed, honestly, to be a part of this brand new organization for Latin America, especially. I'm blessed to be one of the ones that started this organization, and I'm also very happy to be here today, the very first day of this 3-day conference, and talk to you about my research line. So my name is Andreas. I am an associate professor. I am the coordinator of the undergrad program and the lab director in the Department of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences at the State University of New York in Plattsburgh. And the picture behind my presentation, the background picture, is a part of our campus. Of course, right now it doesn't look like that because there is a lot of snow, but that's how it looks like in the spring. So my main research interest is sports psychology. And more specifically, I've been researching the past years a positive psychology construct, and that construct name is mental toughness. So I've talked about mental toughness a lot of times in several countries, and of course in the US. For this presentation, and based on the specifics of the organization, of the audience, and also the timing of this presentation, I chose to do it a little bit differently. So what I'm gonna present today is pretty much, I did a review of the most current reviews. And so the end result will be a presentation that includes the most current, most recent aggregated information that has to do with mental toughness in sport, and that's why I'm calling it Progress and Prospects. So the way I grouped it, as you will see at the bottom, I'm going to break it down in 4 main parts. The first part is what we know. The second part is what we don't know, which is actually more than what we know. And that second part will lead me to the third part, which is somewhere that I want to stay for a little bit and I want to put some emphasis, is what we can do, especially with Spanish-speaking collaborators in Latin America, in order to help that progress in the MT literature. So what kind of collaborations we could potentially have. And at the very end, I'm going to wrap it up with some take-home points. So the very first thing is, as you see at the bottom on the left, what is currently known, and that's where we're going to start from. Okay? All right, let's go. So as you can see, sometimes I will have some small letters over there and I'll put some references. So before I start, I want to say that those are the lit reviews that I've used, the current lit reviews that I've used for this presentation. And several of those people, of those authors, are friends of mine and collaborators. And some of the information that I'm going to be presenting today is my work with them. All right, let's start with some facts. Mental toughness is very popular, right? It's very popular if we see it from the practitioner's perspective, because athletes use it, coaches use it, athletic trainers use it, psychologists use it, journalists use it, even sports agents use it. So it is a very popular term that we hear every day and all the time. Also, if we see from the academic perspective, it's been very popular as well. There's a lot of research going on right now that has to do with mental toughness and specifically in sport. And most of it, as we will see in a little bit, has taken place the past 2 decades. So that's one. Why is mental toughness that popular? Well, it looks like that it creates a competitive advantage. In other words, the people on average who are mentally tougher perform better in sports. Therefore, they're more successful. Okay? So, if something creates a competitive advantage, of course, the next question is, can I develop it? Can I teach it? Right? So we'll have enough information already so we can make a statement that mental toughness can be developed, at least up to a point. So we have something that creates a competitive advantage and can be developed, right? And we will see why this is important, of course, in a little bit. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's kind of a new term, right? As I said, it's mainly has been researched for the past 2 decades. And unfortunately, although there is some progress concerning what it is and what it is not, most of the scholars have not come to an agreement concerning the conceptualization of the term. And that creates issues, as we will see in a little bit. So from now on, we know that it is popular, it's working, you can perform better, and it can be developed. However, we can't really agree on what it is. I broke this category into 3 subcategories: conceptualization, measurement, and training, and I'll go a little bit deeper about the things we know concerning these 3 subcategories. So let's start with conceptualization. All right. Most work, as I said before, that has taken place concerning mental toughness has happened since the early 2000s. And I have included 2 seminal pieces of work up there, one from Jones and one from Clough. If you really think about it, of course, the main topic of research in mental toughness is the conceptualization. And that makes sense because it is a new term, and in the very beginning, you have to create a theory, and you have to understand it before you measure it and before you train it, right? So most of the work is on conceptualization, and most of the citations that have to do with papers that have to do with mental toughness are about papers who talk about the definition or conceptualization of mental toughness. Jones, for example, has a seminal piece, right? So in 2002, Jones and his colleagues published a paper entitled, "What is this thing called mental toughness?" And he used an inductive method to try to understand what it is, which actually makes sense to use a method like that when you don't really have a theory to support it. Unfortunately, the next years after him, the following years, a lot of people kept using inductive method in a not really productive way. So at the end, we ended up with a lot of psychological constructs that pretty much every psychological construct that is important for high performance could potentially be considered characteristic of mental toughness. And a lot of people didn't really like that, and a lot of people were against the mental toughness literature because of that, because the conceptualization was really confusing. Clough and his colleagues in 2002 tried to understand mental toughness, define mental toughness, and they created the 4C model. The 4C model is about control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. And that is a multidimensional conceptualization. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but I want to give you a little bit of the background. So the 4C model is a multidimensional conceptualization, which means that we have those attributes in us, right? And we draw from those attributes, but those attributes remain separate. That's a very simplistic way to explain a multidimensional conceptualization. Based on that, in the 4C model, Clough created the most popular so far instrument to measure mental toughness, which is the MTQ48, Mental Toughness Questionnaire, and it has 48 items, 48 questions. That's why it's called MTQ48. That's a little bit of the background. Another thing that we need to know about the MT literature so far is that we see certain teams of researchers, certain schools of thoughts about mental toughness. And the main school of thoughts are one in England, Clough, for example, another one in Australia, and Daniel Gucciardi is a very important person, and I'm going to talk about him in a little bit and the importance of his work, and people in the USA like myself. I already talked about the multidimensional models. I want to talk just a little bit about the unidimensional conceptualization. Daniel Gucciardi, has used a unidimensional conceptualization. What does that mean? That means that we have those attributes, but they share commonalities. And because they have common ground, eventually they assimilate and they become one. And I'm going to show you a figure in a little bit so you understand that together. What I want you to remember for now is that there is a group of scholars that define it through multidimensional models, another group of scholars that define mental toughness, conceptualize it through unidimensional models. Let's talk a little bit about Daniel. So Daniel used a unidimensional model, as I said, and he says pretty much, I created this figure so as to make it a little bit easier to understand. So he created this model that says that mental toughness is a caravan of resources, actually of 8 resources or key dimensions. And which are those? Those are up top, right? So we have generalized self-efficacy, which is when you believe in your abilities, that you can be successful, right? Success mindset, which is the desire to achieve your goals and actually to act upon that movement. Context knowledge, to know what you need for your sport, for example, and actually apply it in the appropriate context. Buoyancy, the ability to effectively execute what you need to execute in order to achieve your goals, no matter if you have to face some challenges or stressful events. Optimistic style. In general, it means that you have an explanatory style in your life that makes you feel that things will go pretty well in the future, right? You're optimistic. Overcoming adversity. Adversity is any event, minor or major, that affects us from being functional every day. Right? Attention regulation is about focusing on the right things and blocking everything else that is irrelevant. And the last one is emotion regulation, which is pretty much regulate your emotions, whether they're positive, so usually you need more positive and less negative. Okay? All this have some commonalities, and all these come together and become one. That's called mental toughness. And we see the definition that Daniel created in 2015 when he created this model. The mental toughness is a personal capacity to produce consistently high levels of subjective or objective performance despite everyday challenges and stressors, as well as significant adversities. Daniel also created this working definition in 2017. And he said, I'm going to read it again and then I'm going to explain it, that mental toughness is a state-like psychological resource that is purposeful, flexible, and efficient in nature for the enactment and maintenance of goal-directed pursuits. So all this information says what about mental toughness? Let us break it down for a second, okay? Because we don't want to be too technical. First of all, as we said, mental toughness is a caravan of resources that assimilate over time and make mental toughness. That's one. It's a personal resource. So mental toughness is about a person. It cannot be about an economy. It cannot be about a whole country. It cannot be about a structure like that, an organization. Mental toughness is a personal resource. Also, it's state-like, which means some of its components are stable, some of its components are not stable. Therefore, it can be developed up to a point, right? It is purposeful. And that means that we draw our attention and our focus and our energy towards some goals, right? And that behavior is not a characteristic of mental toughness. That behavior that you are pursuing something is the end result of you being mentally tough. Also, it's efficient. What does that mean? That means that you don't only have some goals, but there's congruency between your behavior and those goals. So you're actually acting upon the motive to be successful, right? And also it is flexible. And that means, of course, that when, for example, you are facing adversity, you're adjusting and you keep pursuing those goals. So this was a general description of what mental toughness is based on Daniel's conceptualization. All right. I know I was a little bit technical. Hang in there. You'll see why I did what I did. All right, let's move to measurement. As you understand, when you have a lot of conceptualizations, you have a lot of definitions. When you have a lot of definitions, you create a lot of instruments. So, based on our lit review, there are at least 12 instruments that say that they can measure mental toughness in sport, just in sport, right? That is not very good. The most popular, as I said before, is MTQ48. So if you ever have tried to read any literature about mental toughness and there was some measurement involved, most likely the instrument was MTQ48. However, I want to point out that there are inadequate factor loadings, and that creates a lot of issues. So we're not so sure about the quality of that specific instrument. Okay. There is a brand new meta-analysis, which is lit review at the bottom of this slide, in 2020, I think December 2020, that tried to evaluate all the instruments, or some of them, most of them, and you can see that the MEB tough, the MTI and MTQ18, which is a short version of MT48, are the more psychometrically sound. So the MTQ48 is not in that list. I want us to focus a little bit on the MTI, Mental Toughness Index. That is the instrument I've been using. And that instrument is based on Daniel's conceptualization. Okay. And let's talk a little bit what we know about training. So based on research that mainly we have done in this domain, we know there are some interventional work out there, not a lot. And based on our meta-analysis, it is effective. However, we discovered high bias. High levels of bias means that there's no high quality of research when we're talking about interventional research. So that's a big issue with mental toughness literature. Now, another lit review was focused on the environments. How can you build mental toughness? And a lot of times I talk with coaches, and if any of you is a coach or a trainer, maybe you'll be having the same question. What kind of environment do you have to create to increase mental toughness? So the general guidelines is you have to create a challenging environment, right? It has to be challenging for the athlete. However, at the same time, you have to offer all the psychological resources for this athlete to actually be able to face those challenges and recover from those challenges, okay? So you have to give them, to educate them, and to somehow help them have those skills in order to be successful in your challenging environment. And the very last is that your athlete has to stay highly motivated for this to work. Another lit review that saw the same thing, but it saw it from the perspective of age. It came out with this outcome. So for the early years of an individual, what is really important is the experiences that he or she is going through and the environments that we're putting our children, okay? For the middle years, what's really important is the people that are surrounding them, because they do that thing called in psychology modeling. So they see somebody and they're trying to imitate them. And also the skills that they can develop during those years. All right, so we finished with the very first part, which is what we know. All right, let's see what we don't know. There are a lot of gaps in the literature, and again, I have designed it in a way that creates three subcategories again, one for conceptualization, one for instruments, and one for training. So let's start from conceptualization. We need more clarity. We need to understand what mental toughness is. We need deeper and finer definitions, and we need better conceptualization. Is this important? That's very important. That is very important because if we don't really understand what something is, how are we going to measure it? And how are we going to train it? Right? So this is pretty much the cornerstone of what we need to do, cornerstone of the MT literature, and what should be our number one priority. Let's move to instruments. What can we do with instruments? Well, we can do two things. As we are creating better definitions and better conceptualizations, we'll create more psychometrically sound instruments. In the meantime, one thing that we can do through applied research and then inform basic research is keep using those instruments, but give evidence, give data about the reliability of the scores and the validity of the inferences of those scores. A lot of times when we see literature that measures somehow mental toughness, they don't give enough information about the instrument itself. So how it worked or how it didn't work. We need to give that information, share that information, because it's really important. And that's how it helps us understand if an instrument it is psychometrically sound or not, okay? And let's see what we can do when it comes to training, which is something that I am really interested in, okay? We need high quality, efficient protocols. So we need protocols that will work, but will have low degree of bias, okay? More specifically, most of the protocols are psychological protocols, and some of them are a combination of psychological and physical protocols. We don't have physical protocols only. So that would be something interesting if anybody of you would be motivated to research on it. But when we do create those protocols, they have to be sport specific. There are very important contextual factors that we need to consider when we apply those interventions. They're based on, is it a team sport? Is it an individual sport? What kind of sport is it? What kind of age are those athletes? So we have some factors to consider. So they're not going to be protocols that fit everybody, okay? All right, so let's move now to the third part, where I want to stay a little bit and explain what we could do. I'm a big fan of interdisciplinary approach, right? And in this category, I broke it down into basic and applied science. I'm more interested in applied science, okay? However, it's not, of course, we can't have applied science without basic research, right? But we have to understand that applied is also useful for basic because it comes back and it loops back and informs basic. So when we go towards basic, what we need, as we said before, is validation of the construct. We need theories so we can create definitions, and we need measurements so we can have a better operationalization. Sorry. What I'm really interested in is in applied research. And here I'm going to show you some of our work, and I'm going to show you what we're missing and what we could actually do right now. Okay. So this is a table from a paper we published as this lit review and meta-analysis. There's a lot of information in it, but as you read it, I will just point out some things that we definitely need to do and we could do right now. We need more randomized research and assignment, randomized assignment and research. We need more blinding. A lot of times, the coach who created an intervention is the coach who's trying to see if his athletes or her athletes are mentally tough, and that's, of course, is very high in bias. Okay, we need longitudinal studies. We have a lot of cross-sectional. So most of the research in mental toughness is cross-sectional. We need more longitudinal designs. We really need that. What else do we need? Mental toughness and most of those questionnaires are self-report, which means I'm taking the questionnaire and I am assessing myself. So pretty much I am picking, right, the answer, and this is my perception of my mental toughness. A better way to do it, to increase validity, is through triangulation. So we make the coach assess the same athlete. We make another coach to assess the same athlete, right? Or we make another person in the team assess that athlete. So all of these 2, 3, 4 people assess the same person, and that increases the value of the information. So that's something that we should do in the future. We need more female participants. We don't have a lot of female participants. Most of the research is in males. We need more older adults. We haven't really researched older adults. As I said before, most of the research is in Western cultures. And that's why we need Latin America. We need you, Latin America. We need you to assess and to produce research that has to do with mental toughness, because there's nothing out there, pretty much nothing. So we need you because you have a different culture, and we need culturally informed interventions that are appropriate for you, right? Yeah, that's pretty much what we need. And I try to show you this table, which was again part of the article that we published. What else do we need? So there are a lot of options. There's a ton of options that we could do. I just focusing on some of them, right? A lot of research is measuring mental toughness if it goes up or down, but they don't really attach it to some kind of key performance indicator, right? So, okay, mental toughness went up. Did you perform better? Because the mere fact that your levels, we did something and your levels of mental toughness are 10% higher. Good. Did that translate into a better performance or not? So we need to do that. But when we do that, we need to control for those factors and see if mental toughness was the actual factor that increased the performance. It wasn't, for example, anthropometrics, right? Or something else, or the physical part. Team mental toughness. There's a lot of research that has to do with individual levels of mental toughness. We have done a little bit with Pedro from Mexico and Universidad de Colima. We've done a little bit with team mental toughness. We need more research in team mental toughness. Esports. Esports right now is the sport that is the biggest sport, is becoming the biggest sport in the world, right? It's #1 in Asia, and it's becoming a collegiate sport slowly in the US. Esports are the future. I've done a little bit of research in mental toughness in esports, but we need more. Sports neuroscience. Sports neuroscience is a brand new subfield of neuroscience, right? Again, I've done a little bit with EEG and mental toughness. We need more. If that's something that you're doing neuroscience, we can definitely include some mental toughness measurements in there and see what is going on. Some kind of longitudinal but observational study, at least for now. Okay? DNA. DNA is another big part that we haven't really discovered. We haven't really explored that. We haven't investigated. So the human BDNF gene, for example, that's big. If you have access to this kind of data, let's add a mental toughness questionnaire. Let's add MTI and see again, for now, to observational studies, if there are correlations. Okay? Rehabilitation, that's another big one. I'm doing right now cardiac rehabilitation and mental toughness. Any kind of rehabilitation is something that we haven't really explored. Adherence to exercise, adherence to diet plans, anything. So what I'm trying to prove here is that mental toughness is very popular, and mental toughness is really easy to be included in interdisciplinary investigations. And we need Latin America to participate. There's a big part, there's a big part of Spanish-speaking people that haven't really participated in the research, and we need them to, because there's a lot of information that we're missing. And besides that, these are some topics that we could just explore more or start exploring if nobody has done it in the past. Now, the big question here is, all right, let's say I want to do it. What would I have to do if I would participate in some kind of research between your lab and my lab? A very easy way to start the collaboration would be through this. So we've done the work. Pedro and Lenin and Adriana, we have created this equivalent measure. So we have translated MTI, right, which has 8 questions. We have translated it in Spanish. So you can take it right now and you can use it in any kind of research from the ones that I propose or any of the ideas that you may have today or tomorrow. And you see there is a scale, a range from 1 to 7, right? It's a pretty easy questionnaire. It takes 2-3 minutes max for anybody to do it. And it has 8 questions. Why does it have 8 questions? Well, remember this? Remember those 8 key dimensions that were coming down for mental toughness? So the very first question that you see there is about generalized self-efficacy. For example, 6th question is about facing adversity. The 8th question, right, is about optimistic style. So for each one of those key dimensions, Gucciardi did all the research in 2015, and he has created MTI, which we saw that it is psychometrically sound. And we, Pedro, Lenin, Adriana, and I have done the work, and other people, of course, included, but I'm just mentioning the ones that are from Mexico. They're from Colima. And we translated it. So we created this equivalent measure. Now, it's pretty easy. I can share it with you, and you can include it in all kinds of research you do or you do in the future. Okay? I don't know how much time I have left, but I think that's pretty much it. These are the take-home points. So mental toughness is very popular, and most of the research has happened in the past 2 decades. Unfortunately, the enthusiasm was more prevalent than the evidence. So now we need to keep the enthusiasm really high as it is, but we need more evidence as well. And one way to do that, you can see that we don't only need research, we need high quality research. And that's why I gave you a lot of things that have been the weaknesses of the past. So how we can do research in Latin America, but how we can do it and do it better. Okay, what are we missing? And of course, as I hope I proved, there are numerous possibilities, numerous opportunities of collaborations, interdisciplinary collaborations. All right, I want to thank you. Gracias, thank you very much for your attention. These are my handles in several social media platforms. All these are professional profiles. Facebook, Medium, ResearchGate have the same handle, Andreas Tamatis. Instagram is a little bit better, is a little bit different, I'm sorry. And at the very end, you can see my email address. If you have any questions right now, I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you wanna communicate with me, contact me for questions or for future collaborations. I'm more than willing to read your emails and reply as soon as possible.
Thank you,
That's
Andreas.
it.
Thank you for your presentation. I think we learned a lot. Andreas, muchas gracias por tu presentación. Creo que
I hope so.
aprendimos mucho. We have some questions from the audience. Just give me 1 second so I can read them. There you go. Can you read that?
We have a sample of 3 Olympic athletes in gymnastics. One of the athletes is female. Can we do work with these athletes? Other questions, since you mentioned BDNF, we work in our lab with BDNF. Can you help us with the psychometric questionnaires to assess mental toughness, or we can use your Spanish version questionnaires? Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for your question. So there are 2 questions. The first one was about the Olympic athletes. Of course we can do, of course the sample size is not big, but the level is really high. So we can definitely do something with that. I like that at least one is female. The second one is very promising, and it's very easy for us to try to create some correlations. Yes, I can share my questionnaire. You can find it online, but I can share it with you. Just shoot me an email. If you, I don't know how can I share my email address. Maybe Jose will help me at some point, or I don't know if they have access.
Yes,
to my...
yes, Andres. I do have. I know who this person is, and I can share the questionnaire with him and his research team. And he also mentioned about Olympic athletes. These athletes will be competing in the Olympic Games in Tokyo very soon. So there is another room for opportunity there to do some research. So they're looking for your advice.
Yes, definitely. Again, the high level of those athletes is impressive, and definitely we can talk. We can definitely talk. Just shoot me an email, like Pedro Jose will share my email address, and let's connect. Let's connect. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Again, we need Latin America, and we need anybody else who has any kind of ideas. Mental toughness is very promising as a domain in sports psychology, and more specifically in positive psychology. So if you're interested in something like that, I would be more than willing to see if we can actually collaborate. I would be more than happy.
I'm going to interpret that, Andreas. Just give me 1 second. El doctor Andreas Stamatis está totalmente disponible para estimular la investigación en el tema de fortaleza mental, visto desde la psicología positiva. Dice que el tema de la fortaleza mental en deportistas es un área muy promisoria para la investigación, y que él estaría dispuesto en todo momento a colaborar, si es posible, para desarrollar esos temas con sus atletas, con sus deportistas. Es solamente un momento de comunicarse, contactarse con él para poder hacer ese vínculo y poder cómo podría ayudar a desarrollar estas investigaciones o estas asesorías para sus atletas y deportistas de diferentes niveles. Andreas, anything else that you may want to add? We still have plenty of time. We have about 10-15 minutes. If you want to share any other ideas or thoughts that you may have.
Well, I could be talking about this all day long. I saw some people say regards and hi, so hi back. Thank you for watching. No, I just want to say that I try to give a little bit of the background. I hope I wasn't too technical about it, but I wanted to explain what is going on. I can just talk for hours just for the instruments or just for the conceptualization, but I wanted to focus more on the applied part, although I wanted to give at the same time a little bit of the background of the history of mental toughness.
Okay. Yes. Andreas nos está indicando de que, bueno, él podría hablar todo un día acerca del tema de fortaleza mental, acerca de los de los conceptualización, ¿verdad? El concepto de fortaleza mental. También podría hablar acerca de los instrumentos que se utilizan para medir este constructo psicológico. Pero lo que quiso hacer fue dar una visión más amplia y general acerca del tema para estar más informados, pero que está dispuesto a tener contacto con todos y cada uno de ustedes interesados en este tema.
Yeah, and the very important part here is that, again, I want to congratulate Pedro, Lenin, and Adriana. We've done the work, and that's really meticulous work to collect the data and do the stats and actually create that equivalent measure. So we have the questionnaire, a questionnaire that is pretty good. We'll have it in Spanish.
Muy bien, y quisiera también felicitar al profesor Pedro y Andrea, quienes trabajan en la Universidad de Colima. Pedro, por cierto, es uno de nuestros expositores, el máster Pedro Julián Flores Moreno, quien estará presentando el día jueves a las 3 de la tarde. Ellos han trabajado con el doctor Stamatis en esta medida equivalente de fortaleza mental y los está felicitando porque hicieron un trabajo muy técnico y meticuloso y que ahora se tiene entonces una versión de este instrumento en idioma español. Entonces también como pueden observar, la colaboración es simple de realizar, es cuestión nada más de contactar a los investigadores, no solo al doctor Andrés Stamatis, sino también a todos los investigadores de la red para establecer vínculos de cooperación.
Yes, so it is, as I said before, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it can give us very valuable information. So whether you're doing VO2 max, whether you're doing 1RM bench press, whether you're doing EEG, whether you're doing anything pretty much, there are a lot of things that we haven't explored because, as I said before, most of the research, and it kind of makes sense in the very beginning, had to do with the conceptualization, not with the application.
Y lo que dice es que, bueno, es un proceso que puede ser largo, pero tal vez no tanto de recolección de información, ya sea que estemos recolectando datos acerca del consumo máximo de oxígeno, VO2 max, una repetición, un RM o electroencefalografía, EEG. Estas mediciones se utilizaban al principio especialmente para tratar el tema de la conceptualización de fortaleza mental, pero que ahora se puede hacer mucha investigación, no solo de la conceptualización, sino más bien de la aplicación de la fortaleza mental, es decir, llevarlo de un plano más desde el punto de vista teórico a un plano más bien práctico, de la práctica con los atletas directamente.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else. I don't want to keep anybody, but it's very easy to use it, and whoever wants to include it in their current line of research, we can see if we can make a case based on the literature. Most likely we will, because we don't have a lot of applied science when it comes to mental toughness. We will talk about the details, and I'm sure we'll have great collaborations. All the collaborations that I've done with Costa Rica or Mexico have been gone great. So I'm sure anybody in this organization are equally great. So I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to any potential collaboration that we have.
Muy bien, y lo que dice el doctor Stamatis es que efectivamente no se ha hecho tanta ciencia aplicada en el tema de fortaleza mental, pero que sus experiencias en colaboración con colegas de Costa Rica y de México ha sido muy exitosa, ha sido muy positiva y que está abierto a cualquier tipo de colaboración con los demás personas, miembros de esta red de investigación en ciencias del movimiento humano. Entonces, básicamente lo que hace es una invitación para que se comuniquen con él, obviamente en el idioma inglés, para que pueda aclararles algunos temas o establecer alguna línea de investigación en el tema de la fortaleza mental. Este es un comentario personal mío. El doctor Andreas Stamatis es uno de los líderes en el mundo en el campo de la fortaleza mental. Ha sido muy humilde y no ha presentado tanto su investigación, sino que ha presentado más la investigación de otros colegas que son los líderes en esta área. Hay como 2 colegas y él vendría a ser como entre el tercero de los pioneros de esta área de investigación en el mundo. Andreas, this is not going to like you, but I had to say it.
What did you
Uh,
say?
I said that you are one of the leaders in the world in the topic of mental toughness.
I wish.
I know your reaction because you're very humble, but I also said that 2 of your colleagues are among the top uh, researchers in that area, but you are so humble that you didn't want to mention or show your own research here during your presentation. But I mentioned that you have several manuscripts published in the area, and you are among the top 3 in the world.
No,
So I'm trying to motivate people to flood your email inbox in the next few days. So be prepared.
yes, and thank you. So yeah, I've been collaborating with very important people in the mental toughness literature, and I'm grateful they have honored me and they have let me work next to them. I'm trying to do the best I can. I love mental toughness. That's all I'm working on every day, and sometimes night. And I don't know. You can go to Google Scholar or you can look for my research and see what I've been doing. But in this one, I wanted to take another perspective and this presentation and give you information from mostly from lit reviews from the top researchers. And I'm going to say, Jose, that Jose and I and others have started collaborating in project in mental toughness, which I think will have a huge impact in the literature. So there is some already collaboration with Spanish-speaking collaborators, but we need more. And that's the message I want to give you at the very end, that we need Spanish-speaking people, collaborators. We need Latin America to participate. And we have already translated the questionnaire. So it's not the as we say, like it's not difficult to use it, right? The important things now is to see what I'm interested in and then what you're interested in, and if we can kind of fit together in a team. And again, it will be amazing if we could, based on this presentation and based on this great new organization, we can start expanding the mental toughness literature in somewhere else other than Western countries and other than Western cultures. We need different cultures. We really need that. So that's it. I want to thank everybody. I hope you're safe during this global health crisis. Thank you for logging on. I saw some people, some other comments that they like the presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I don't know, hopefully we can see each other soon. I can travel back to Mexico and see all my friends down there soon. If you have, again, any questions, connect with me on social media or send me an email and I will reply as soon as possible. So also the last thing, I want to thank Jose and everybody who in the background organized this. This takes a lot of work. It's a 3-day conference, virtual conference, but still it's conference and it has its own difficulties. So I want to thank you for not only inviting me, but also for organizing this and help us disseminate, because that's very important, disseminate our findings to another kind of audience. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Andreas. I will interpret this and then I'll say goodbye. El doctor Andreas Stamatis lo que nos ha indicado es de que él siente de que para esta presentación quiso utilizar revisiones de literatura de aquellos académicos que son los más especialistas en el área, digamos, los del top que publican en las mejores revistas, que él los conoce, que le han permitido colaborar o formar parte de su equipo de investigación y que incluso estamos tratando de hacer trabajos conjuntos. Pero dice de que hace falta mucho más investigación en Latinoamérica, en los países de habla hispana principalmente, y que esto lo ve como una gran oportunidad para poder formar equipos de trabajo en temas que sean de común interés para poder llegar a acuerdos y poder hacer investigación en el tema de la fortaleza mental con sus deportistas. También quiere agradecer a la organización y a todas las personas que han puesto mensajes en el Facebook acerca de su presentación. Él les agradece enormemente y también a la organización por la invitación a este evento. Y bueno, su mensaje principal es: hagamos investigación en conjunto, comuníquense conmigo, busquen mi perfil en la página de RISIM, de la página de la red, donde pueden ver en su perfil de ResearchGate o de Google Scholar cuáles son las publicaciones que ha realizado, en qué área se ha desarrollado, para ver si se puede replicar algunos de sus estudios aquí en Latinoamérica o inventar algunas nuevas ideas de investigación. Entonces, él queda dispuesto para que se comuniquen con él. Thanks a lot, Andreas, and you have a great evening back in Greece.
Thank you very much. Have a great day and good luck to the next presenters.
Thank you. Entonces, le agradecemos al doctor Andreas Stamatis, que disfrute de su buena tarde allá en Grecia, y él nos dice que muchas gracias y que continuemos con mucha suerte en este evento. Bye bye, Andreas.
Bye, bye.
Muy bien, entonces